Yis Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom.
Hi everyone, we are back with Torah Made Flesh and Daniel Hatt for part 2, Torah Made Flesh, the Return. For those of you who may have watched part 1, it may be a little bit difficult to watch and to hear some of the testimony. But you know, one of the things, again, just to reflect, Daniel, for the listeners and things like that, I'm not the new host of Torah Made Flesh. This is a program that Daniel and I agreed to do together, and to welcome him back. And you can't come back from the kind of testimony that Daniel has without giving honor, I guess, really to the fire that you've been through, more importantly, to Shonda and in her memory, and also obviously above all the Father and what he's done, Daniel, in your life since. And I guess to give it all context, part 1 is necessary and needed, and there's other parts to all of this too that are very interesting. I also know that for anybody who's watched part 1, that you were giving a sanitized version, even in that sense, and you know, the intimacy and what we walk through, you know, just in even some of our own discipleship, which we'll talk about. You know, again, you know, sometimes it's just some details are best left, you know, in proximity of close fellowship, and so, but anyway, I know that many people listening and myself really appreciate what you're doing here and why you've chosen to share, and which brings us not so much to the what that happened to you as a part of your fires, but also this program will have a little bit of the why, and where it's all sort of going, and you know, sort of find out what the Father's done for you with all of this. But one of the things that I did want to raise, just to sort of begin this part 2, was when people experience severe loss in their lives, and sudden loss and all these kinds of things. I know one of the things when I went through loss in my own life, one of the things that always was hardest after that loss was that you were going through the firsts of everything, you know, first anniversary or first birthdays or first, you know, things that you do together with loved ones, and just even processing that and experiencing that. And so I know that there's people watching the program that have lived that journey and understand what I'm meaning when I say this. Others maybe those fires to that degree are yet to be in their life, and maybe it can be encouragement them seeing this program one day to help process, you know, not only the loss that occurs when it does, but also, you know, the first along the way and that kind of a thing. So
absolutely.
So there's that dimension to it as well, and so I just wanted to get your feelings on that, because I know just recently, you know, your young fella has had a birthday, and the family's experiencing it for the first time, and that sort of a thing. And then I want to get into a little bit of the miracles on the night. Just touch on that there was, you know, like I say, even the fact that we're doing this program is a miracle, and just to give honor that there was some incredible things that came out of this too, in positive and in good ways, and to share that too with people. But, you know, just get your views on the firsts of things, and just what could you say to people through all of that as they're processing loss?
Yeah, it sucks. Real bad. It sucks real bad. Like I said in part one, one of the first couple of things obviously for me was my birthday. My first birthday since I was 16. Our 15th year anniversary, which is not the first, but it is a once a year thing. And then I know it is what it is, but like the sheer fact of Rome's New Year, not that we celebrate it in that way, but just because it's an event every year that, we were always together and we would go and be at family's house or friend's house and just hanging out and spending time with them. We still got to do that, but it was the first that we did without her. And then obviously coming up on my son's birthday, just this past weekend, he didn't want to, and this is coming from a kid who's very happy and joyful all his life. I mean, his whole, doesn't matter. Nothing can get him down. He's a very joyous kid, and he didn't want to do nothing. We went to see some friends, and we went to visit with some other friends. We had friends visiting us, and we all went together and stuff, and he got to see some of his friends, but he had he come to me and he just broke down. He's like, and I knew it was bothering him because he didn't really want to go do anything and he's always been like, well, I want to go to Sky Zone, or I just want to do something with some friends or whatever for his birthday, and very joyous. And he just, he come to me and he hugged me and he was like, this is the first birthday I've ever experienced without mom. And it's like, what do you say to that? As a parent, as his dad, I'm just like, I know. Yeah. It's like it's the first one I got to see you experience.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking nothing away from him because it is his mom and what it was like for me to see that, and there ain't nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed with the ability to be able, I can fix a lot of things. I can't even come close to touching that. And, he just hugged me and I just hugged him and we cried and what do you do? And I constantly remind him and his sister, that the Father's still in control. He chose to allow it, and that whatever he allowed it for has to be greater than, it has to outweigh the cost, if that makes sense. Like his way always outweighs the cost.
Yeah.
No matter what, because we are only I'm seeing this little thing of my life, and even however far my life extends, it's like it's still only very little compared to his picture, and he has that long game, and we can't see it, even though we're actually supposed to be looking towards that and not this little thing. And you even brought up what in Ecclesiastics, it's the same thing he's talking about. It's kind of like it's all just a mist. It's not that it's not important, but it's not what we're supposed to be focused on. We're supposed to be focused on the Creator's long game and what he has for us at the end compared to what this is. And, he's only 14 and she's 12, and, it's like, we got, this would be our first feast, Passover coming up. It'll be our first feast we get to celebrate. It'd be without her. It's going to be rough. The first time when we went back to MTOI for just a regular Shabbat service because we tried to make it down once a month. Throughout the years, we try to go down once a month or something and hang out with everybody. But first time we went back, I broke down. First time back, I was outside in the parking lot. I had to go outside. I broke down. Come back in when services was going on and stuff. My daughter sat next to me, and she does the dancing and she's hanging out with her friends and stuff. She sat next to me, and me and her cried in the back of the fellowship we just sat back and cried all the whole time it was going on. And then at the end of it, my son come up to me and broke down. And since then, we've been back, I think, once or twice more, and it was better. But that first one time there, it was very bad, you know. And then his birthday, and then Passover. I think Passover would be tough, being the first one, and then obviously when her birthday comes around, that'll be tough. And then, you know, ultimately there'll be October 13th of this year that'll come around.
Yeah.
Which would be, and then June 10th is my wife's birthday. So that's going to suck real bad. That'll be the first one. So, you know, and I'm.
Wedding anniversary?
Well, that happened. I experienced that December. So
Right.
my December was the first. Yeah, it was very quickly. My birthday, wedding anniversary, and, you know, the day we kind of started hanging out, dating type of thing. I experienced all that. The new year, you know, going back to the fellowship, just going down there and being with friends and stuff, and and staying at friends' houses where we stayed as a family, and even watching them experience us without her. Like, I could tell, like, it, you know, like,
Oh, yeah.
like Craig, his wife, like Mary, her and Shonda, you know, they were friends, and they were becoming very close friends. And like, I can see it hurt her. I could see her look at us and like, she's not there. Like, and, you know, it's like, it sucks real bad. It just, there's no other PG word I think I could use.
No, be lots of colorful expressions.
Oh yeah.
You know, emotions that we go through. I know when, the fellowship we were having closely right after the event, and you were experiencing these first very hot on the heels of it, and it was like you'd been hit, like just boom, 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 and I remember going through this, with you, and it was like, it seemed relentlessly ruthless, just in, your Gethsemane of this,
It seemed kind of like that too, because it was almost, because, okay, it all happens, the thing happens, you're experiencing the main drama per se, and you don't even think about, okay, like for me, that was October, November, experienced the Thanksgiving. That was the very first thing, right? Like that was, we experienced that. And then a week later, my birthday. And then a week later, our anniversary. A week and a half later, our anniversary of us becoming a couple. Then New Year's. Then, and then in between that experience and the fellowship, going down to the fellowship experience and that. And it was quite insane, because it's like you don't think about that until they start happening.
Yeah.
Just so happened it stacked up for me, and it was just like, wow.
I couldn't believe it. We'd be talking, and then you'd be saying what first it was, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, it just, it was just, like this tidal wave. Yet, enduring a lot of that, though, I often heard you express how thankful you were on some of the miracles that took place that night.
Very much so.
Because let's face it, in an event like this, especially with the type of weapon that was used, which I believe was an AR-15. Is that right, Daniel? It was.
Well, he had used two weapons. He had started out with a 9mm, my handgun.
Yeah.
And then he went to the rifle and
Right.
started shooting. And he was hiding behind the fence, so nobody could see what was going down.
Yeah.
He had started out, and so he was just shooting through the fence, and and cops, neighbors, whoever, and so it was.
It's a guessing game at that point.
Oh man, it's like you have no idea. Like the first initial 3 shots, like it's like what I said. I knew what it was. I knew where it was, direction it was coming from. I knew it was close. Never, ever in my wildest dreams would I have thought it was my friend with my gun standing behind my fence shooting at us.
Yeah.
Ever. Like I would have lost every bit of money I've ever had in my life betting on that. Ever.
Now it turns out that he was high on meths. Is that right? So he was out of his cuckoo.
Yep. Bro, when he walked outside, like because I started yelling, like, you know, when I'm out there running, you know, before I even run out to see what's wrong with my wife, try to figure it out, I start yelling at him, right? I'm yelling at him to stop. I didn't know who it was, but I'm just yelling at somebody to stop, right? And when I heard him respond, like, get back, that's what he said. It didn't sound like – I knew it was him, but it didn't sound like him. And then when he walked out the door, dude, it looked like a zombie. And I'm not putting that out there like it's some kind of weird thing. Like, for real, like it wasn't him. You know what I mean? Like it was something – it was just different. He was different. It wasn't him. But, yeah, he was on meth, and then he'd been drinking a lot, which it wasn't the drinking. It's like I've seen him drink. It's not that big a deal. But the drugs.
Yeah, and you mix them together and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and then obviously, and it just, yeah. So it puts you in a place that you were literally, when I saw him, it was him, but it wasn't him. It was very weird. And even my kids said something. They was like, that didn't even look like him.
Yeah. You know, you've mentioned me a few times, you know, you don't know how you weren't shot with that type of weapon at such a close range with that many shots fired. And to me, you know, again, we don't have to go into the graphic detail of it, but in the sense of just what it was, and when you would tell me about it, I would be like, you know, really, how was it that you weren't shot? Like, in your own mind, you know, what is your sense of that? Like,
I totally.
Down, you're right there in such close proximity.
10 foot away, 10, 15 foot away, if that. It's 10, 12 foot away. Really.
And there's shots being rifled at you.
21 shots altogether.
Yeah.
So not
close.
So it was
a close period of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like he pulled the trigger while I was kneeled down, trying to figure out what was going on with her. 4 shots went off as I was in between that little brief moment while I was kneeled down, trying to figure out what was going on. And I remember thinking, because at the time I didn't care. I just went out there. I had to go out there. I had to. I didn't even think about me getting shot. I done chased my kids off, right? I done sent them. And I had to go check. I had to go see what was wrong. And when I'm there, I hear the 4 shots. He's 10, 12 foot away or whatever. I don't even look in that direction. I hear him. And I remember thinking to myself, like, there's nothing I could do. Actually, I remember thinking, if this was the other way around, she would know what to do because she's an EMT. She works in the ER. And I always remember her telling me, like, no matter whatever happens, like, you need to call the paramedics or, you know, the ambulance type of thing. Even if you had training, like, you still want to get them coming type of thing. And obviously, and the cops. And I remember hearing the shots, thinking all that, and then thinking, I got to move because I can't get shot because of the kids, right? Like, I'm like, I can't get shot. Because then I can't help. I can't
process all this.
Yeah, I can't help nobody if I'm shot. The dude, I tell you what, I don't. You know me, and I don't try to live in weird land. But there's no way that I don't think it was the father that kept me from not getting shot. Dude, the brother was 10 foot away, 12 foot away from me with an AR-15. Shot at me 4 times.
Yeah.
No way. Like, and I still got all the holes in the fence. I still got all the holes in my handrail where I was 3 foot away from, where I was knelt down, and he was laid down. He had made a pallet that he had laid out like in sniper position shooting.
Right. So he has a stable
Yeah.
platform.
So he was shooting like at my level, because I was knelt down on my knees next to her because she was laid out and doing the thing, right? So and I remember, and even my kids, like when my wife went down, my son had ran up to her, like before I yelled at him. He didn't make it all the way to her, but as he started to approach her, I yelled for them to go. So he turned and listened. Thankfully, they listened and just booked off. But my daughter was standing kind of right behind her.
Well, this brings me to the second miracle that I've heard you talk about with this, and that is how did the kids
literally, man, it was her walking up, my daughter and my son, and I was over here coming out of the other side of the van, and like we hear the shots. I start to send them back. They get, I don't know, maybe a step or two. She turns around. When she turns around, that's when he starts shooting again. And then he just, it's like she falls. My son turns around to go to her. I'm like, run, run, run type of thing. And they're both standing, like they were standing right there as he's shooting after she shot. And because it was like boom, 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 her three, she went down, boom, 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 three more. And the kids are still there. And then the kids finally, and like all this is happening so quick. It's not like there's a bunch of pauses going on. Like it's all just reaction time. But still, like, really?
Yeah. These bullets aren't finding any of yous.
No, and they stuck. There's a tree, literally, like my wife, my son, my daughter, a tree right here. There was two of them in the tree right next to where my kids were standing. And then one went across past them and went across the street and stuck in my neighbor's house.
How do you explain, this?
It's totally,
At those ranges.
Yeah. And at that many, because he shot so many rounds. And it's a miracle nobody on the street, none of the cops, none of the paramedics, none of anybody else got shot. And for me to be standing right there, there's no way I don't give the Father credit for that, for me and my kids especially, because I was right there. And I didn't care. Like, I didn't care. It's my wife. What are you going to do? It's like, it is what it is, right? Yeah. I got to make sure I got to try to figure out if I can fix it. And I couldn't fix it. So, yeah, I would, that part of my life, when you're standing before the Creator on that day, and that part of my life, I'm going to ask to see, because it's like, I want to know, like, did you, obviously I truly believe he did, but it's like if there was something supernatural that took place for that to happen, I'd like to see it.
Yeah. I remember often, some of the conversations we'd have, and even in the midst of your pain, you were praising the Father that, that your kids were not hit. And I remember you weren't just focused on the tragedy of it. You actually really acknowledged something that I thought, for me, when I was listening to, is really quite something, to not just be focused on the tragic part of it, but you literally praised the Father, and in the midst of your pain, and this is not long after the event, when many people would have been, and understandably so, angry with the Father.
Absolutely,
I remember you saying, and how much that affected me at the time, that you were appreciating that I believe that we lived something special. And I know you don't live in weird spiritual land, okay?
Yeah, you know that.
Yeah, you and I know each other well enough that I know you don't play games like that. And
no.
You don't embellish, and you're not trying to make things up, and or dramatize things in a sense. And so when you were saying that, I remember thinking to myself, it's quite something to be able to be in that space and to actually praise the Father in the midst of such a tragic event for which, understandably there could be a lot of anger, there. And I'm not saying you didn't process anger. I'm not saying you didn't process that hurt and that pain. I know we lived it. I know others lived it. I know, others down in Tennessee, and your very close friends down there, and the special part they played, what Steve played, all that kind of stuff. But I also know what you and I got a chance to play and to journey it through. And that leads me to a question I think people should know, because during these conversations, you would say something to me often. And it came back to you in a weird sort of way. It was actually a strange sort of comfort. And I could hear it in your voice. And strangely, I remember it comforting me too. It was kind of weird. But you'd made a statement that Shonda knew and wanted to, and made the point that she understood you were both mortal. And at some point, one of you were going to die. She didn't live with she knew that, whether that was growing old and dying or whether it be whatever, she was very aware of her mortality. And she made a statement to you, which in a weird sort of way was a comfort and was kind of an amazing thing. And I just wondered if maybe you wanted to share that with the people listening.
Sure. Because we would always have it. And she was, for people that don't know her, she was very straightforward. She was very, either you were her friend or you weren't. You know what I mean? She wasn't mean. She wasn't, but she just.
Straight up.
She just, my friend, her friend Misty, her husband, my friend Clint, her husband, he has a saying he always said about Shonda, which is totally fits her. He says she loves fiercely. So if you were there, she loved you like no other. But we would have, and I say that to say that she was very frank. We're neither one of us are dramatic. We're very just straight up. What you see is what you get. There's no specialness about anything. It's like this. If you like me, cool. If you don't. But so we would have conversations. Obviously, we have kids and things come up. You talk about the future. You talk about, because you don't know. We don't sit on the throne. We don't get that option. So we would have these conversations, and I'll never forget. I mean, forever since we've been together, she used to always tell me that she has to die before me. She says, I could never lose you and be okay. And when you're talking this, at night before you go to sleep or in the car or wherever you're talking, it's just, it's just conversation at the time. And it's like, oh yeah, I hear you. And I'm thinking, okay. But she meant it. There was it wasn't a joke to her. To her, she was very serious. She's like, no, you don't understand. I can't live without you. She's like, I think you would be fine without me. I'm like, what? Really? What are you trying to say about me? She's like, no, I just know this. I couldn't do it without you. And I'm like, I'm glad you love me that much, but in my mind, I'm over here going well, you're a lot stronger than I am. There's, I don't understand why you would say that. But long story short, we shared that conversation more than probably a dozen times throughout our relationship. And, it's funny because even really when I think about it, it's if she was truly, if that was truly something that she felt, and I don't know if she ever prayed about it. I don't know her prayers and the Father. That's between her and him. I don't know any of that. But if she had ever took that to him and said that to him, it's he answered it for her. He made sure that wouldn't happen. He actually gave that to her. And and I'm not trying to be weird, but to her, that's an answered prayer. You know what I mean? 1,000 years from now, she'd be like, he took care of it. because I couldn't have lost you type of thing. Because if the roles were reversed, I don't know. And in my mind, I'm like, she would have been better off if it was, like my kids would have been better off if they got her instead of me. Because we also had another saying, which that also went along with all that, which because she was so forefront. She's like, if something ever happened to me, you'd be out of luck. You got to be up a creek with no paddle. And she's very correct. Because she did all the cooking. She ran the house. It was her, like it's her castle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate that she did all that. But because of all, like, I go to work, I do my thing, I try to take care of all these other things. She does everything here. She works a full-time job, and she's like, I was married to Superwoman, I feel like. But and you talk about you want to see something depressing. You should have seen me the first couple times I had to go to the grocery store by myself, because you're talking to a guy that only went to the grocery store with her at some few times just because of whatever, or was sent to the grocery store, asked to pick something up on the way home from work because she didn't have it and she needed it for dinner or whatever. Like, to watch a grown man walk to a grocery store crying. Because it was like, I can do a lot of things, but like doing the things that she did, and it might be simple for a 16-year-old kid to go do it, but like it broke me down.
Yeah.
Like trying to cook breaks me down. I'm learning to cook. I know I'm 39 years old, but my kids, they'll tell you, they're lucky if they can get like a halfway decent grilled cheese out of me and not some burnt soup. So yeah, it's like very humbling, everything that I am experiencing that probably most people experience anyway on their own as far as growing up. But I went straight from my mom to a wife, you know what I mean? I didn't do the dating game thing. I didn't do the, we're going to go mess around over here with all these other girls. Like, that was my one. Like, she was my one. And she was very adamant about her job and taking care of me and her kids and the house and just, to her, that, I mean, like, the father gave that to her, and that was her responsibility to do her job. And she did it so well, there's no way I can even remotely come close to it. So
yeah. And I think sometimes, when we operate as one, we have, as a part of that wholeness, we're doing our bits, right? And anybody who's experienced the loss of a spouse is going to know and really understand where you're coming from right now. And it's something often that people who haven't lost a spouse don't think about. Just that functional aspect that has these emotions.
Everyday life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's emotions attached to it. With those actual practical functions which you're going through daily, and I know, because you often raise it when we're in discipleship, and we're having time together, and that's been a real it's been a reminder to me, and it's been also part of sharing the journey and everything else. And I think this is the bit where I wanted to get in and ask you now some questions about the value of discipleship, Daniel, because one of the things is, sometimes we don't even use the word at all, or if we do, a lot of times it's flippant, or we don't understand what it is, but we just say discipleship anyway, all that kind of stuff. And, most people that I know about, and it doesn't matter which side of the river they're on, their understanding discipleship, I often find can be quite naive.
Very skewed.
Or very skewed. And yet we'd had a chance before this all went down to start to form a relationship, a brothership, a fellowship. And, we purposed discipleship in our lives before this event.
Absolutely.
And many people may not know that, but we did. And we opened up to each other as brothers, and we became real, and we enjoyed a journey behind the scenes, which no one would know, as a part of, our friendship. And that discipleship, which of course, is so big in my life to trying to get this into other people's lives. And I've been such a beneficiary of it over the years, and what the Father really started to impress on me 8 years ago. And so that was something when the Father brought us and connected us together, I really wanted to encourage you on and to get in. And so we actually did start to enjoy that. And so because one of the things that we would talk about it, sharing in one another's burdens and these sorts of things, so that when these things happen in our lives, it's not alcohol or drugs or counseling or whatever, whatever avenues we might get to cover our pain, but that we would actually have discipleship in play. Because my encouragement, we had many a discussion, is that it can help people stay in a place of repentance through their fires, stay turned to the Father, stay in a place of teshuvah, that if we can choose him in our fires, he can do incredible things in our lives, and healing and restoration, revelation, sharing with us his truth at a living level.
Absolutely.
And we talked about all this stuff, because I was trying to give you my testimonies and sharing over the years. Yeah. But you really took it serious. You
Absolutely.
Did. Well before this occurred.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the fateful night of Friday the 13th, November.
Ain't that not to take anything away? Isn't that a trip?
Okay.
Friday the 13th, right?
Yeah.
And it's a Shabbat. Like, it makes me think, like, anyway. Like, again, I'm not living in the weird, but.
Yeah, no, I know. But
that's
you just kind of look at these things and just go, Friday the 3rd. I mean, the 13th.
And it was already sundown, so it was Shabbat. And it's just like, really?
Not to make too much of it, but I mean, man, you just kind of like, go figure, right?
Yep. So back to the discipleship.
Anyway, back to the discipleship, and one of the things that in all these discussions we'd had, all of a sudden now, the Gethsemane of Daniel's life is about to occur. Now, I'm not saying you didn't have fires and hardships before then, and whatever they are, but this is a real Gethsemane of one's life. You know what I mean? We have fires and we go through hardships and things, okay? But when I say Gethsemanes, I mean crushings. Like, you're
super humbling.
Yeah, you're going to go into a crushing, and the olive's going to be pressed, and either oil's going to come out of this or bitterness, and something's going to come out of this, that the ruach and light and all that sort of a thing. And so we talked all about this, and the question I wanted to ask you is this: do you see the value in having had discipleship and taking it serious in your life before going into this crushing? Is that something that really, and then what was the value of discipleship during the crushing? Like, what is your view on this? Because you've lived it in such a very real and very crushing way. And so, what is your view on discipleship, given your journey during, and now here we are arriving at the program? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Well, to answer the question as a whole, I value it. There's no amount of gold that could replace it. Does that make sense? Like, there's no amount of anything to me, like it far outweighs anything. And I'll give the detail. It's like this, like, the kind of the goal when Trey and I wanted to start doing this for the show, and we met, we ended up meeting you through Steve, and kind of gave you the testimony of what we want to try to achieve. And then we actually developed this very cool relationship where we get to talk a few times a week. It's every couple of weeks. And then it, as time progressed, it was, at least once a week we got to speak. Not for 5 or 10 minutes, but, an hour or 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. And we would talk about, everything. And you would share with me some of the details that you went through and experienced, and why this discipleship thing was so on your heart because of how you received it, and how the Father had shown you, throughout the years of what you went through with, and then you start sharing these with me, and like I totally got it. And I don't mean got it like, oh, I know this thing now. I got it in a way like I understood where you were coming from, and like I wanted that. I wanted the, not this intimate thing with just a guy to share, the Bible with, and the scriptures with, and the feelings and all the little nuances. It was, I want this thing that you got out of it. I wanted to experience like what the Father revealed to you through this, becoming closer to, literally becoming closer to what Yeshua tried to model with his people, with his disciples, living with them, sharing in their burdens, them sharing and trying to remotely share in his burdens, even though they fall asleep. But, as we talked about these things, like I got it. Like I saw what Yeshua was trying to model. I saw it. I saw it in the disciples. I saw what he wanted them to have, what he kept over and over and over and persistently trying to show them throughout his model, throughout what he did with people, the way he interacted with people, even when people was trying to throw him under the bus and catch him up. Like even that, like, this is how you're to act. This is how you're to be. How he got their back, even how he corrected them, all these things, right? Like literally sharing in one another's burdens. So we're going through this. I'm learning this. I'm very excited. I was telling my wife, because she would make fun of me because we would be on the phone so long. She's like, "You're like a high school girl on the phone." Like I said, yeah, but the only difference is, we're not talking about, the makeup and all the crap and the, oh, did you hear what so-and-so was saying about you the other day in the locker room? It's like, and I remember, me and her having these conversations, and how excited she was for me to see me experience a different level than just having the book and reading what Yeshua was doing, but having kind of a more of a one-on-one thing with what he was doing with you, and then you were sharing with me. So yeah, I was loving it. And I was telling my friends about it, that like, oh yeah, I get to talk to Curtis a couple of weeks. We sharing this. And even when I would when I would go down to Tennessee, Steve and I would talk about the stuff, and I would, and what, and you guys have shared stuff together. And so it was very good, and I loved it. And I wanted that model to happen. And I knew what was on your heart and how the Father wanted you to try to build something around that model. And then, then we come to this, and even at Sukkot, right? Like you and Brad have a conference call with Steve, and, it's not necessarily about discipleship, but it is in a whole, as far as even with leaders getting together, and like, it's shared. Yeah. The wider aspect of it, not just, like the people need to see people that are in leadership roles having discipleship too, and what that meant to walk with each other. And, I always had a problem with Cain and what he said to the Creator when he asked him where his brother was. Even back in when I was churchianity, even before I even went back, I always had the problem with, where's your brother? And he says, am I my brother's keeper? It's like, you know what? Yeah, you are your brother's keeper. Like, dude, that was not only his, like, yeah, that was like his legitimate brother. But like when I see what Yeshua modeled, Yeshua's modeling the very thing that Cain was like going against. Like, no, like I'm your keeper. I share with you in the good, in the bad, and whatever it is, like I'm there, I walk with you. And so I see this going on. So then, you know, everything goes down and, you know, like we start talking, you know, I remember because we were staying in that hotel out there and, you know, from the very next day to, you know, that whole first week, you know, I remember talking to you like 4 a.m. my time or 5 a.m. my time or something like that. And, you know, just sharing with you, you just kind of letting me, you know, vomit about crap. And, you know, not everybody will let you do that. Not everybody will let you get on the phone and just talk that for 2 hours. You know what I mean? And listen and be there and share some wisdom with you in different things. And I very much, there's, you know, that's like thanking you for that. Like there's no way I could ever, you know, thank you or repay you for being there for me like that, because I don't know how anybody, well, actually that's not going to be a true story. I was going to say, I don't know how anybody goes through something like that without it, but I do, because I see it every day. I know why the guy at the end of the week takes his check to the bar and sits at the bar with his check every week, Friday night. I know why he does it. I know why the people go get drugs. I know why the people do the craziest things you can imagine and don't care whether they die or not. I know why they do that. I know how the world tries to deal with those problems. And none of that even remotely comes close to discipleship, because you're on your own. You're trying to deal with something with physical things, like, you know, like a bottle or drugs or whatever it is, or even, you know, porn or women or whatever, dudes, if you're a chick and you go, like, I know why people do these things. I know why people abandon their kids and just freak out and go away. I can see it. But like, I never once had that feeling. I never once had the feeling like everything is so overwhelming, I got to bail. I had feelings where I was like, this sucks real bad. But at the same time, it's like, I knew you had my back. I knew, you know, a few other brothers that, you know, I'm very close with had my back. And, you know, I would talk to y'all pretty much almost daily, just because I knew that whatever I need, you guys would be there. Even if like my one brother, he drove over from Louisville just to be with me type of thing. Like, I knew how important that was for you to be there for me too. Like, because you legitimately were kind of putting your money where your mouth was. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, the proof's in the pudding, right? Like, you, for 8 months or whatever it's been, we've been talking about this discipleship thing, and you've been sharing this model with me and talking about the discipleship at your fellowship and the guys and how they've grown, and you've watched them grow. And then you get this firsthand experience to deal with somebody like what I went through. And I don't know what them other brothers went through, and I'm sure they went through stuff just as, you know, but like I saw you legitimately back up what you always told me. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Like, I saw you, I watched you legitimately do what you were trying to share with me about the discipleship, these, you know, the months prior, all the way through, and even up until now. And you know, starting what you started with the donkey stable things and the discipleship programs of bringing guys in. And, you know, and on top of all that, just before I get into that, like, helping keep me in like that repentant state, like the teshuvah state, where like I don't run off and get pissed off at the Creator, or I don't let my feelings get in the way of saying, why me type of thing? Why not somebody else? It kept me in check, which I think is very important, because I think when we're left unchecked and we're not accountable to nobody, then our feelings get in the way. And you know what the Bible says about that? The heart's very wicked, it's deceitfully wicked. And when you allow those things to get in, like, then you get pissed off at the Creator, then you get pissed off at the world, and all of a sudden, like, you can't function as a human, because, and then like on my case, like I have 2 kids I need to take care of, and there's nobody to kind of keep the dog on the chain per se, you know what I mean? And that helped me be like, not go past the limit. That helped me stay in teshuvah and realize like the emunah part of what I felt with the Creator, like that no matter what, he's still there, he's still in control. And why it all happened isn't necessarily, he don't have to necessarily tell me, and I'm still okay with it. He don't have to go, this is why, or I would be very grateful if he did share it one day, but he don't have to. And I still love him and trust him with my kids and myself, no matter what, because of being in that, you guys helping me stay in that repentant state, because I know that once you leave that, then that's when everything gets so jacked up. And, seeing it transform this last couple of months with the Monday night group and the guys you've been discipling with them, and, to eventually, I feel very fortunate that I'm able to have like a group on Thursday night that I get to share with brothers who are going through trials in their own life. Just because it's not like mine doesn't mean it's not a trial to them, or it's not a crushing to them, because it is. And I'm no more important than they are. And if I'm really their brother, and I really do believe in discipleship and what Yeshua taught, then, then I have to kind of put my money where the mouth is. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say all this and not ever step up to the plate and go, no, that brother needs somebody to walk with him. Regardless of the fact, I don't care if it's because of family, death, whatever. If he's struggling and he's my brother, then I'm his keeper, right? That's how I feel about it. Like I gotta step up, and I gotta walk with him in that. And I think that once, we realize as a people, especially, the blessing of being able to come back in and realize that the Torah and the Moedim and all these things that he's showing us that we didn't have before, that he's allowing us to see, like when we realize how important those things really are, it's important for us to be with our people, to be with our brothers, to be, when they're struggling, to be there as the backbone, to be there to help, like, I want to help push you up the ladder. I'm not trying to drag you. I'll get behind you and push you. You know what I mean? Just kind of like you did me. It's kind of like, I'm going to, not forcibly, but like I'm there. Like, you're going up the ladder, but if you need a nudge, I got you. Does that make sense? Like, I want to be there to support them in their walk and whatever they need. And I hopefully that they get that, and they like, oh, well, I need to go do my thing. Oh, wait a minute. I got a couple of fellows over here that I know are struggling. Let me go be with them. Let me go help them out. Because ultimately, what was it? Yeshua took the 12, taught them the model, sent them out in pairs, and they were supposed to replicate his exact model. It's like, we're not as a people, we're not replicating that because of agendas and religion or whatever. And I mean, we can get into that in a little bit, but you know how I feel about a lot of that, even before this. But I said all that to just say that you don't have to necessarily be in that kind of fire or that kind of crushing to have discipleship. Like, we were having discipleship before that. And then the Father put me in a position to where I got to really see why he let us have that before. Does that make sense? Like, I got to see why you were there before. Leading up to that is because it's like he knew I was going to have that. He knew that it was on your heart to show me that model even before all the craziness. It was like, and it's weird because I kind of see it as a payoff. Like, I kind of see him paying off his model. He's like, that's my model and it works. And I'm going to show you that it works. And it's like, and it really did. Like, he proved himself, just kind of like when he told Abraham, you know, like, I swear by myself because there's none higher. It's like, I'll show you it works. And you know what? It cost me a lot to see it work. And if he would have gave me the option to say, well, if you do this, you'll get to see it work, my selfish self would have never chose. I could never choose, but he chose. Which is, I think, in turn is also very rewarding to know that even in all the chaos, like, I see him there. I see him walking there. I see him using you to walk with me. I see him using Steve to walk with me. I see him using just a couple other brothers walk with me. And I see it. And they don't even know, like, some of the other guys don't even know how beneficial just them calling me or me calling them and them talking to me for 30 minutes is. They don't even know. Just let me talk smack, whatever. Like, they don't even realize, like, you guys were doing what Yeshua taught us to do. You just don't even, like, you don't even understand. You don't even understand it right now. And so, yeah, I mean, you know,
they're bringing in the spiritual content. It's not just, not to diminish things, but it's deeper and more intimate than a Torah study, because you go deep into the Torah in this, but you're not doing it, to tick a box, let's say, or it's not
checking off the agenda thing. It's like, yes, Torah is very important. Yeshua is very important, but at the same level, the heart level, where, like, the heart circumcision part, like, you want to find out if somebody truly believes in what Yeshua is, go through a fire and see if somebody's going to stand there with you.
This is where the Torah becomes flesh, isn't it?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. It's almost, it's like, I guess I probably should have chose another name because he had to make.
He chose a beauty, brother.
Well, but that's really, it's like, because everybody, it's like, oh yeah, Yeshua, the Torah made flesh. The Word became flesh and tabernacle. Absolutely, but you know what? It also means if he's the example and he did that, what are we supposed to do, right? Like, we're supposed to take that and become flesh with that. Like, we're supposed to replicate that model that he said. He says, even Shaul, what Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Messiah. He wasn't saying that because he's some kind of something. He's saying that because of the principles that he used are based on what he saw Messiah do and how he saw the Messiah deal with things. And it's like, that's legitimately, it's like Torah made flesh. Like, you are to take that and make that come to life. It's like, because it's not just the pages in the book. Yeshua made it very clear when he says you search for eternal life, throughout night and day through the book. And it's like, it's not there. Like, the eternal life was literally standing in front of these people and they missed it.
Yeah.
Because they're so blinded by the book. It's like, yes, it has its place and it's very important and dear to my heart. But at the same time, if you don't make that become flesh, if you don't show people what that's made of and you imitate the Messiah, it's like, you might as well throw the book in the trash.
Yeah, without love, it's
that's it.
It's empty and it's religion.
But it's the discipleship model that makes it come to life.
In your opinion, then, just on that, and this is going to be a couple of my final questions to you, but in your opinion, because you now have the luxury of hindsight and also the degree of the type of fire you went, the level of crushing, which is, a very serious one. When you look back now over the last year that we've walked together in discipleship, and now that you have this crushing and you were led to start the program and things like that, in your opinion, do you believe that the body on either side, now that you can look back in the last year with all that has transpired, on either side of the river, on either bank, do you believe that the body really does have a handle and understands discipleship and why it is different than life groups, home groups, cell groups, Torah studies, even gatherings on, the Moedims, all this? Like, do you believe that there is a real and a healthy understanding of this, or is it more they think they do, but they don't? And where does your position now sit after all is said and done in this whole journey? How would you answer that? Because I encounter this all the time.
Well, yeah, I know.
What would you say?
And I'm not one of those. I'm not a sugarcoater. My old man wasn't. I'm very much not like that. No, I don't think they have a handle on it. I think both sides has a lot of religion still in their walk. And I'm saying this, I'm not trying to exclude myself like I'm over here. I'm just saying I can see from my like seeing from, if I'm looking from outside the box, I'm looking at both sides. I'm going, we have this wonderful thing in the Messiah. We have this wonderful thing in his word and the truth, the Moedim, all these things we have that he's desired to give to us. He don't have to give them to us. He shares these things with us. And then we take them and we add agendas and we add different levels of religion nonsense to it. And then we argue about we argue about the most craziest things because somebody might celebrate a day different on Passover or a Sukkot and it's like, instead of being happy with the fact that, guess what? Probably none of us have it right in the fact that we know what day is what day and what day starts this and what day is that, and instead of just being happy with the fact that like I'm celebrating Passover and my brother's celebrating Passover. Yeah, he's doing it a day later than me or a day earlier than me, but you know what? He's getting his heart ready for when the king returns and sits on the throne and he says, this is how we're going to do it. It's like, you make the rules, you lay it out, but I'm ready. You know what I mean? Like, I'm ready. I've been preparing myself to be ready for when you lay down the rules. I'm ready to accept the rules and do them how you want me to do them. I'm ready.
Brother, we need that at the heart level, don't we?
Absolutely. And
it has to happen here. We're not heading for an exam where you fill in the blanks, how much you know or think you know. And I'm trying to, I'm crying out in the wilderness right now to both sides of the river. Please understand this. We are heading for a heart judgment.
Yep.
And cannot manufacture only a work he can do on our heart. You can argue the name that you think the Father is, or whatever day you want to argue, or
cause blue in the face.
In the body. Yep. And whatever you think you know. But there is not going to be an ounce of self-righteousness that is going to be acceptable on the day that we stand before Yeshua.
It's very clear that you don't get in on anything you do. It's not because of you're standing there. You know what I mean? Like, it's only because of the Messiah and what he did, allowing you to even remotely even come back into covenant with the Father. It's like the fact that we're arguing over dates, names, things like this, that like, you know what? You can't prove it either way, right? Like, there's great arguments for everything, single thing, and I don't take nothing away from that. I think
you're not saying the passion for seeking truth is the problem.
No,
It's
absolutely
how
not.
we're doing it and the fruit it's producing.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like the proof is always in the pudding, and you want to see where somebody's heart is. Say, like, if they say the creator's name a certain way, say it another way and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, if they make that the deal, then we're missing the point. Like, we're missing the point, because you know what? The Revelation that says Yeshua has a name on his thigh which no man knows. Guess what? To me, that means no man. I don't care how you read it, write it, whatever. It literally says that. And you know what? His calendar will be perfect when he fixes it. And everybody will be all the same thing. You know, and I'm not saying studying that stuff is not important. I think it's very important. What I'm saying is, at some point in time, you got to just look at it and go, look, the Messiah said he was going to do these things when he decides to do them. When his Father lets him come back to do these things, he's going to make these things happen. And guess what? They'll be perfect. And he's going to do them. But you know what? We don't get to tell him how. We don't get to tell him when. We don't get to do anything of that. You know what he told us to do? Love one another. Take care of one another. He even said, take care of those that are orphans, needies, poor, widows. You know what? And he didn't finish with going, only if they love me, take care of them.
Yeah.
He finished with, no, you take care of people, because you know what? That person might be the only Messiah that they ever see will be you. How are you going to leave his name and his image when you walk away from that person? How are you going to leave that image in their mind? Will the Ruach be able to show up and go, this is something I can work with? Or will he show up and that person have this disgusting image of what this so-called Messiah looked like because somebody was too busy hitting them in the head with the book because they didn't say the name right, or the calendar, or something like that? It's like we gotta quit putting those things first and put the heart issues first, because you know what? Yeshua made it very clear, which is the greatest command, right, in the Torah. To love Elohim with your whole heart, mind, and soul. Everything you have, you're to love him, and you're to love your neighbor as yourself. All of the Torah rests on those two things. And you know what? It doesn't matter how you keep Shabbat, how you do the feast, how you read the scriptures, how many times you've read the Torah portion. That ain't going to matter when you're standing in front of him and he's like, oh, yeah, you did all these things, but you didn't love your neighbor.
Yeah, and you didn't correct.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, so the very long answer to that is, I think on both sides we need a heart check. We need to rectify why we do Torah, why Yeshua is the Torah made flesh, and why he imitated what he imitated when he showed up.
Why is his blood covering us?
And that's the most important thing.
Covering or missing the mark while we are working. And
why did he give us a chance?
Exactly. You know something, Daniel? It's an interesting thing, but I know in living this journey with you and in this burden and this crushing you were in, and the honor and the blessing it's been to me, in the sense of, you know, the honor it actually is to serve when somebody is in a burden. But you do realize in these very moments that I don't imagine on that fateful, you know, that night that you're facing the Gethsemane of your life, that you were sitting there in that moment going, thank goodness I won that calendar date argument, or thank goodness, you know, I won that argument on the name of the Father, you know, or thank goodness, you know, I don't imagine any of those things remotely would have been of comfort to you. The self-righteousness of winning arguments, the division that causes in the body, all this garbage that is going on, I don't imagine any of those things were even in your mind, came to mind, nor would have comforted you. I know, because I know the journey we lived together after that, and I know how much revelation and how much truth and beauty came from the living word, because we lived in the word for hours Daniel, in our conversations. He was with us. And we referenced the words, and he brought to life understanding and revelation, that we never seen before. And 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 so, can you gain great knowledge being in a place of repentance during the time of a crushing? Yes, but it's an outcome. It's not the pursuit. The pursuit is him, and he does that work of the heart. And this was the thing I'm trying to share to people, that our intent in seeking truth and wanting to is all wonderful. But if we're going to do it at the expense of a heart circumcision, this could be in vain. And
Absolutely.
we talked indeed in fellowship for months before this night ever happened to you, and I know you got it. And so when the time came, I saw you do it, Daniel. I saw you choose him. I saw you do that. And I saw how it circumcised your heart. I know I see a Daniel post this part of the heart circumcision of your life. And I wanted to share with you this, because you said, I don't know why, whether he ever answers me the why. I believe these two programs, and I believe what Torah Made Flesh and what you will bring to the body, having lived this and chosen him through it. Not just lived a terrible thing, but actually chose him and his ways in it. And walking this out, I believe the why is already starting to be answered. We're living the why right now. And what you're able and what you're giving to people, what you chose to do. Daniel, a lot of people may not have chosen to do this, what you did, to get back up on this horse and to share like you have over the last few programs, and to do that in such a heartfelt and open and honest way. A lot of people just would not do that. But you did. You've done it. And I know I've been the recipient of that blessing in my life, and who you are as a person. And I know I speak for people that would have watched these two programs. And I believe in my heart they'd be saying the same thing. Thank you for being willing to do Torah Made Flesh and to be obedient to the Father. Thank you for being willing to, open your life up and to share, and not just to come back and, keep this under the carpet and, let people wonder, or just talk about that happened to Daniel and his family. But to come back and actually go, you know what, I'm gonna share this with you and do it. And so I know for me, and I know many others listening, thank you for that. And I know many people are going to be glad that I'm not hosting this program. Before they're going to get somebody who knows what they're doing back in the state. Get this donkey out of here. And get Trey back in and get Daniel back in. And, and people they can praise the Father for that.
But that's the thing. It's like, it's always about who, Yeshua said, Kifa, do you love me? Right? Like, do you love me? And I know we talked about this, like he couldn't answer the question properly. The reply that Yeshua was looking for, he didn't have the answer. He didn't have the proper answer in context of what Yeshua wanted. Yeshua even made the statement, to the people following him, right? He says, you guys are only following me for what I'm giving you. I'm giving you, the miracles, the food, the whatever. That's the reason why you're following me, that you're following me because of what you're getting. And all Yeshua wanted to hear was, I love you because I love you. Like, I want you, regardless if you're going to give me anything good or not, I still want you. Even when you take something from me that I don't think I can live without, I still want you. I still trust that you are good, righteous, and loving, and that when you say that day that, you'll wipe away all the tears, that you'll make this thing happen that you promised, 7,000 years ago, that should have been happening since then, that you'll make that legit. That's why I love him. Because he does what he says. Not on our agenda, but on his. And we just have to fully trust him in doing that. And I think that's the goal, right? Like, it's always been his goal. Like, I don't want a slave. I don't want a robot. I want to be loved. Like, we like being loved. If we like it, where do you think we get that from, right? We get it from our dad. We get it from our father. That's his thing. We get it because we're after him. And like, what magnitude could we even possibly even come close to thinking on that level? You know what I mean? Like, his desire for his people, to have people to love him because he loves them, not because of I'm giving you this thing or I'm blessing you financially. It's like, I took everything away from you and you still love me. It's like, that's who I want to live with forever. You know, like, that's who I want. It's like, I want, you know, that's what I want. And, you know, I truly believe we're always, you know, if we're telling him we want to serve him, if we're telling him we want to be with him and that we love him, how do we not give him the right to test us, right? It's like, I'm going to find out if you really want to be with me. And then some crazy off the wall thing happens you don't even know, that you can only read about, right? Like if people really saw it go down, like Hollywood can't even write a story that crazy in my book. Like they wrote some crazy stuff. But like, for him to, in the last 6 years, I had 3 people in my life taken that all 3 were rocks. They weren't the rock, but they were people I leaned on very much so. To now, there's only one person I have to lean on, and it's him. Like, and I can remember 10 years ago telling him, like, I just want you. Well, I guess he took that literally. You know, he's like, well, we'll see if that's what you really want. And, you know, I just want to encourage people that no matter what it is in your life that your experience as far as a crushing or a testing or whatever it is, it's like, if he's allowing it, it's because he loves you. And he loves you enough to allow it in your life to find out whether you truly, like, Kiefer, do you love me? Like, do you love me? I'm going to strip you, and I still want to know. And, you know, at the end of Peter's life, what? Like, he could answer the question. He could go to his grave answering the question properly, like, yeah, I love you, Yeshua, while he's dying. You know what I mean? Like, I love you. Because the rest of it is just, you know, I don't want to say make-believe, but it's almost like that. It's like his arm is not short. Sometimes we got to wait, right? So in my book, I'm like, everybody needs to quit messing around with all the little nuances and BS stuff and get on the same page, because he makes it very clear that he don't return until his bride's ready. And guess what? There's a lot of people that's in the ground that I want to see. So it's like, people need to get, you know what I mean? Like, I want to help get the bride ready. So.
Well, I tell you something. I think
that makes sense.
Oh man, it does make sense. And I think that's a great note to finish this on. And it's an encouragement and reminder to us all. And I think, you know, I think there's a time now for us to grow up as a body and to hear this message and what you're saying and what you're bringing, and why you're getting back and sharing the Torah Made Flesh. And I know myself and many others, we look forward to the programs and interesting new format and things like that. And so, you know, we look forward to these things, Daniel, and I think that's just a great note to end on. And like I say, we're thankful the Father has kept you with us, and that you continue to serve. And we look forward to it, brother. And from me to you, I want to thank you for the opportunity it was to host. But I think we need to get somebody back.
Think your time's up, right? No.
Yeah, I think my time in the seat is over, and for all those that have watched the programs, thanks for putting up with me. You know, I don't know how to host a program, so I've tried to do my best here, and thank you for that. And
did very well.
But I think the thing really here is just a big thank you from me, Daniel, and from everyone else. And we'll close the program here, and we look forward to Torah Made Flesh. And we all thank you from the bottom of our hearts for sharing with us. And I mean that sincerely. So thank you, brother. I really mean it.
Well, I don't know how to respond to that other than I'm just, I just want to encourage people to, get in that place, get into the Teshuvah place, just get with him and get there and let him just watch what he does in your life. Because even through things, he's still faithful. He's still always faithful. And so anyway, we'll close with that. And yeah.
And we look forward to more Torah Made Flesh.
Yeah, we got some plans.
You're back.
Yeah, we got some plans. I have to drag Trey out of retirement and
nice.
Get some stuff going on. But I want to get into sharing people's testimonies and filming. That was one of the goals we wanted to start doing is originally was doing that. So, we got this awesome new platform that even the Father allowed us to come across during these times off. So, I think people are going to like it.
It's exciting. And the people will be very interested. I know some of the plans you've got and some of the things that are coming. So, and I know people are really going to enjoy it. And we'll leave it there. And I've always wanted to do something. So I get to close off right now. Because every time I get that, so I want to do the other. I want to close the program off. So I get to do it this time. It's the only time I'll get to. So to everybody out there, we hope you enjoyed the program. We want to thank Daniel for coming on and sharing with us. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Torah Made Flesh. Thank you.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.